Okay. Maybe lots of people with coughs and colds. It's a sign you're not doing enough meditation. Quite a few people have asked me just during my long retreat, did I get sick or ill during that time? And not really, because when you get lots of deep meditation and get the energies and the bliss and the peace running, sort of just viruses don't stand a chance. It's unfair on viruses, meditation. So if you really get your meditation going and all your viruses, no way, mate. Go and find somebody else to infect. Okay, going to give a talk now. This is the first talk at Nolamara since my long retreat. Just over 7 months ago, which is just like a few moments ago. Time doesn't mean anything really. 6 months have gone very quickly. I went into a solitary retreat since mid-December and only came out of that on Monday night. And during that time, I never spoke to any human being, not even one word, and didn't see any human being except at a far distance, not close enough to really recognize which monk it was who came to bring my one meal of the day and put it in a box at the end of my path, some, 50 meters, 100 meters from my hut. I left it there, and later on I picked it up, ate my meal, and then put the box back. That's how I lived for the last 6 months, in solitude. There's an old saying in Buddhism by the Buddha himself, what the enlightened ones say is happiness, the world says is suffering. What the enlightened ones say is suffering, the world says is happiness. If anyone dobbed me into Amnesty International, I think the Buddhist Society would go to jail for putting me in solitary confinement for such a long time. Is that supposed to be a punishment in the world? Sending a person into solitary confinement, one meal a day, not speaking to anybody. If I remember correctly, in the history of Australia, they used to send the very worst convicts down to Tasmania, to Port Phillip Bay or something. And the very worst of the worst convicts, I think there's one fellow, they wanted to find some way of punishing him, and when the floggings didn't work, when the imprisonment didn't work, they took him to one of the islands off the coast, and they left him there for a couple of weeks as the ultimate punishment. 2 weeks wouldn't have been long enough for me. So can I have a bit more, please? And what the world says is happiness, the enlightened one says suffering. What have you been doing for the last 6 months? Some people spend all their money going off to Bali. That's suffering. Or they go off and get married. That's big suffering. Or they try and get rich, and that's huge suffering. What do you want to be rich for? There's another saying of the Buddha, and the more I practice my meditation, the more you see that was such an incredibly wise person, sort of with wisdom which is ageless, which is doesn't matter what culture, what race, what gender. So deep inside that it sort of transcends such distinctions. He was saying that what wealth is contentment. The more contentment you have, the wealthier you are. You have lots of money. Do you ever find contentment? You just got more things to disturb you, more possibilities to distract you. But in the opposite way, with contentment, you have far more happiness, far more wealth than anybody in the world. That's why that the Buddha said the highest wealth is the highest contentment. So I want somebody from the Buddhist Society to please go and write to, I think it's Forbes magazine, of the wealthiest people in the world, and suggest Ajahn Brahm for top of the list. I'm much wealthier than Bill Gates. What the world says is wealth. So the enlightened one says is poverty. I think that Bill Gates is probably very poor. And all of the wealthy millionaires in Perth are very poor. They're poor in happiness. They're poor in time. They're poor in freedom. But they're imprisoned in their mansions. I was, you might say, imprisoned in my hut. In my hut in Serpentine. I haven't gone anywhere for the last 6 months. I haven't gone overseas. I haven't gone interstate. I've gone into mind. Gone inside. Gone in the opposite direction to where most people go. This was my sabbatical after working so hard, building up the monastery in Serpentine and looking after the place here and helping to establish the lovely monastery at Gijigana Dhammasara, which is historical first in the world, such a forest monastery for women, and helping out interstate in Malaysia and Singapore. Doing all that work is a time for a sabbatical, 6 months off. And there's some person here I have to sort of apologize to, because they said, when you go anywhere for your sabbatical, can I give you the air ticket? They wanted to make some good karma by offering me the air ticket, but I didn't need to have an air ticket to go into my kuti in Bodhinyana Monastery. If somebody offered you a free ticket anywhere in the world for 6 months, where would you go? If you were wise, you'd give away that air ticket and say, give it off to some charity somewhere and come to a monastery. Because what the world says is happiness. Going visiting here, going looking at there, buying things. The enlightened one says it's suffering. I proved that for myself with 6 months of retreat. I never went anywhere. My little hut, many of you have been to Serpentine. You've seen the monks' huts where we live. A little room, 3 meters wide by 2.4 wide. Interesting that, I know it's 2.4 meters wide, because I've built many of those huts and designed them. There's a big black tiger snake in our monastery. It came to visit me during my retreat, and it sort of stretched itself next to one of the walls so I could actually measure it against the bricks. 2.5 meters. It came to say hello, because maybe it thought I was lonely, having no one to talk to. But in that small little room, I spent 6 months, and on the walking meditation path, the only time I left that area was to go to the toilet, which was a little hole 5 meters away, or to go down to the box where my food was. I never went for walks, except on the walking path right outside my door. Never went to visit anywhere. I was the happiest little monk you could ever imagine. Why do you need to go anywhere? Isn't all going somewhere just running away from something? And so as a monk, you realize what most people think is happiness. You say, that's not happiness. Sitting there, 1 meal a day, just doing nothing, just going inside. But it's difficult for many people to do a retreat like that if they don't understand what some of the teachings of the Buddha really are. There's an old simile which the Buddha gave of the elephant and the jungle cat. In this simile, he said, which was, from nature. That's where the Buddha got most of his similes from. It's like a jungle elephant finds a nice lake in the jungle and goes and plunges into that lake and washes itself and drinks and plays around. When it's finished, as elephants do, get out and then just go off and do whatever elephants do next. A little jungle cat saw the elephant doing this and thought, I'm as good as any elephant. I can do this. And so the jungle cat dived into the water. Unfortunately, little cats aren't as big as elephants, so he couldn't reach the bottom, nor could the cat swim. And so that little cat was in big trouble. In the same way, the Buddha said, if a person has some understanding of what Buddhism is all about and has some deep meditation, then they can go off into solitude and have one of the most blissful times of their lives. If they're a small jungle cat, you can go crazy or mad, sort of in solitude, which is a difference between sending a prisoner off to an island for 2 weeks and sending a monk into his hut for 6 months. Because for most people, that you keep your sanity, or what the world takes as sanity, just by your social intercourse. It's talking with other people, being with other people, keeps you in line and stops you going too far off. But when you're by yourself, you've got no reference points, no one to talk to, no one to see. And all your reference points is only from inside. And I know that because as a young monk in Thailand, sometimes you would see, they're called like hermits, rishis. Even in Thailand they had rishis. And there was one rishi in Thailand who came to visit the monastery where I spent many years. And by that time I was supposed to be the second monk, but the abbot was always away, so I was usually looking after the monastery most of the time. And the guy had long hair and a beard and wild eyes. He was as crazy as a coot. He was really off. He'd been in solitude for many years, deep in a cave for about 7 years, but didn't have enough grounding in meditation to know really what to do. And what do you do in solitude? Again, it's just what I just taught a few moments ago during the meditation. To really learn about what letting go is all about. What you learn with letting go is you learn just how to meditate. And you come here to meditate and you have watching the breath or doing loving kindness meditation, doing all of these little things. But this is just different ways of trying to teach just one thing. You know, the trick of meditation, the way to enlightenment, is just getting rid of the control freak. It's the control freak which sends people mad in solitude. It's a control freak which sends you mad in your life. And that control freak inside of you always wants to control other people in your business, wants to control your family, control your kids, wants to control your body, wants to control your mind. You know, there are some people with tremendous willpower, much stronger than my willpower. But that's not the way for freedom. Developing strong will only leads to strong frustration. When eventually you come against something in nature which is stronger than you are and which will not bend to your will. Eventually you have to come across that, and that leads to tremendous frustration and suffering. It's much easier to give up earlier. All of you have lived long enough just to know just how much you try to control your life. And has it worked? Have you really just found what you were looking for? And all of the hard work you did at school, and the hard work you put into your relationships, and the hard work you put into your career, and even into the hard work you put into your meditation. Has it really worked? Have you really found freedom yet? There's a big mistake which people make there. They want to be enlightened. They want to be and enlightened at the same time. They want to try to get there. It's all just controlling again. The way the Buddha saw things was a completely different way. Enlightenment is not some sort of heaven realm where you earn by your actions, by your doing, by your making, by your controlling. Enlightenment is something which you earn by letting go of all that, going completely the opposite direction. That's why in the story of the enlightenment of the Buddha, there was a symbolic act which he did just a few days before he sat under the Bodhi tree and got full enlightenment. That was taking his alms bowl, putting it in the stream, and seeing it float upstream against the current. Bowls or anything you put in a stream normally flow downstream. But that was a significant, psychic, strange act which was showing him the path to enlightenment, the path to peace, the path to happiness, going in the opposite direction, the unusual way, the rare way. We always go with craving, following desires, going out into the world, following thought, seeing where thought leads us, thinking that by following thought we'll have the answers to the problems. If you think of thought like a train, now you get on that train and you go with the train in the direction of the train, where the train is leading. The Buddha went to where the train was coming from. He went to where craving was coming from, where desire was coming from, not following it, but going backwards against the stream. When you have pain in life, which way do you go? You don't go into the pain, you go in the opposite direction, as if pain is running after you, and you have to run faster. But instead of doing that, what the Buddha did, after running away for so long, he decided to turn around and run in the opposite direction, run towards pain. And then pain gets scared and starts running away from you. That's how it happens. You're calling the bluff. And the same with thoughts. Instead of thinking your way to enlightenment, or thinking your way out of the problems, or thinking your way out of depression, or thinking your way into wealth or whatever, you go in the opposite direction. Into calm, into peace. Instead of going in the way of accumulating things to find happiness and fulfillment in the world, you go the way of giving up, throwing things away. My life, this stage of my monastic career, is to try and give away as much as possible. Every time I come here, though, that people give me things. So I have to be faster than you, so I can give things away faster than you give them to me. That's the only way, because what do I need? What do you need to live? I've got a kuti, I've got a bowl, and it's filled every day. What do you need to be happy? I've got job security. Have you? I've got an immense superannuation fund full of all my good karma. I'm going to be looked after until I'm ancient, until I die. I'm going to have the best medical care. If I get sick, there's many doctors in this Buddhist society who are just hanging out for the time when I'm sick because they can make merit. And I'm very careful, if ever I am sick, not to try and let anyone know, because if I have a sneeze or a cough, if I just cough once or twice, sitting in this seat, next Friday night after the talk, about 5 or 6 people at the minimum will come with cough mixture for me. They do that. And the same with all monks as well. So who needs medical insurance? Now you can see what happens when you give things up. When you give things up, you get everything you ever wanted, everything you ever need. That's why I'm one of the most wealthiest, well-looked after people in the whole of West Australia. You can see this is going against the stream here. And it's not only going against the stream with material things. It's going against the stream with 6 months. What did I do? Nothing. I tried my hardest not to do anything. And it worked. What that meant was you're going against the current of the mind. If you've got 2 weeks holiday, so I was just talking to sort of someone here just a few minutes ago, they get 2 weeks holiday, and 1 week they're going to go somewhere. They don't know what to do with the other week. Do nothing. Don't go anywhere. Don't think of going anywhere. Sit down and just do nothing. Why is it so hard to do nothing? One, because our society doesn't allow us to do anything. I think that's being lazy, that's copping out. One of the beautiful things about the result of my retreat was all of the support which I got from all of the people here, all of the people who come to the Buddhist Society, support our monasteries, and also from the community of monks and nuns. They said it was one of the most wonderful things I've done for others by doing 6 months of nothing. The most compassionate thing. It inspired apparently so many people. I did 6 months retreat, not talking, not seeing anyone, and just blissing out. What a wonderful gift of compassion it was to all sentient beings. Showing a path, showing a way. Sometimes we think to be kind, we always have to do something for someone else. We have to go and help. We have to go and serve. We have to go and help the needy, help the sick, do something for the world. In one of the great suttas, it said the Buddha became enlightened and left samsara once and for all for the ultimate benefit and welfare of all sentient beings. It seems to be one of those statements which doesn't make sense. What do you mean he's just completely left for the welfare, the ultimate welfare and happiness of all other beings? You understand that now. I went 6 months in retreat. That's the best 6 months I've done for other beings. It's the greatest service. If I'd have given a talk every night here and gone and served and helped, it wouldn't have done a fraction of the service of just staying in my hut for 6 months, meditating, blissing out. Creating a path for other monks, for other people, with solitude. All of you may have read some of the religious history of our worlds, of Western culture, Asian culture. We always have heard about like hermits in mountains, sages who lived in caves, people who just left the world for such a long time. I only did 6 months, but I think I qualify for my hermit badge now. And it works. What happens in such a retreat is because you let go of so much of the world, and so much of the mind, and so much of thoughts, all the past and the future. I very quickly let go of the monastery, and all of you, when I was in retreat. I have many responsibilities here. I'm a spiritual director, an abbot, sometimes. As soon as I went into my hut, and I'm not sort of exaggerating here, I completely dropped all of that and never thought about it. It's marvelous to be able to do that, to let go of all responsibilities and duties, and just to be no one, to disappear, to go out, away, in, free from all worries and responsibilities. I told the monks, please don't disturb me. Even if the world ends, you can come and tell me afterwards. So in other words, don't disturb me at all. And they left me alone completely. The monastery ran very well, and the Sangha ran very well. I don't need to control anything. In fact, the more you let go, the better things run. You've all seen in Perth when the traffic lights fail, then the traffic flows more freely. It's a well-known social phenomena. So when you stop controlling your kids, the kids will behave better. Okay? When you stop controlling your wife, your husband, your partner, they'll be much more amenable to you. When you stop controlling yourself, you'll have much more happiness. Try it if you've got the guts, the courage. This is the problem with solitude or with letting go. You just haven't got the courage to do it. Because it goes against the stream. It goes against everything which we've been taught in the world except what you've been taught here in the centre. We've been taught to grab the day. If you want to get somewhere, go for it. Put forth effort. Try. No pain, no gain. Well, a lot of rubbish. It's not no pain, no gain. No happiness, no enlightenment. That's my saying. So when we actually do that, we start letting go in a retreat situation. Things happen. We're setting the causes for enlightenment to happen. And the wonderful thing about enlightenment, it's one of the sayings of the Buddha which surprised me, that enlightenment is the highest happiness. That's what got me interested in Buddhism for the first place. Because I wanted to be happy. Not ordinary happiness, I wanted the best. The highest. Let's go for broke. Do you want ordinary happiness or the best happiness? Best happiness is cheaper. It's on special offer from the Buddhist Society of West Australia for the rest of your life. Doesn't cost you anything. I want to go to the ultimate happiness. Nibbānaṃ paramāṃ sukhaṃ, the Buddha said. Nibbana is the ultimate, the highest, the deepest happiness. The wonderful thing about sort of solitude, or what I've been doing, is you get closer and closer and closer. It gets happier and happier and happier. Bliss upon bliss upon bliss. I don't mind telling people that the last 6 months were the happiest period of my life. By far. I've had some happy experiences before, some blissful experiences before. But this topped it. Some of the experiences in meditation, you can't imagine such bliss just running just right through the mind. Powerful, wonderful. And it all comes from just imprisoning myself in a little hut, saying nothing, eating very little, sleeping very little. Not because I was doing penance. You're not doing this because you're trying to hurt yourself. Just making it natural. You wanted to sleep, sleep. Eat as much as you want. You just don't want to eat much. You don't want to sleep much. You've got energy, power going through your body and your mind. You don't get sick. You're just as happy as a lark, doing nothing. This is one of the great teachings of the Buddha. When you see monks or nuns putting into practice, or you see lay people getting happy, doing these weird things. I mean, it is pretty weird, isn't it? Just 6 months of not speaking to anybody. 6 months of not seeing anybody. No radios, no TVs. I had some books there. They were suttas, Buddhist teachings, nothing else. I didn't have a whole stack of novels to get through. I wasn't sort of writing to everybody, just getting my correspondence in order. There's no internet in my kuti. I was completely solitude. No one could contact me. I couldn't contact anyone else. The most blissful time of my life. Sort of bliss which no one here has ever tasted. I wasn't born as a monk. I've had sex with girlfriends when I was a student. I know what all those pleasures are like. You can still remember those. They're tiny things compared to the bliss of meditation. But it's not just for the sake of the happiness of it, because that happiness in the deep meditations, it actually is teaching you something. What it's teaching you is the less you have in your body, in your world, in your mind especially, the less you have in your mind, the more freedom you have, the more bliss you have, the closer to enlightenment you are. Less, not more. And as a monk, I've been doing this for 27, almost 28 years as a monk. So I'm pretty clued up about how to meditate and how to work with the mind. I know what to do. And when you do it, it all works. And this is precisely as the Buddha taught. You've heard in the ancient tradition, our cultures, people doing this monks, nuns, hermits, completely blissed out in their little caves, eating nothing, and people wonder what the heck they're doing there. But in our traditions, they've always been respected somehow as being wise, somehow being different than the rest of the world, showing a path which you don't learn in universities, showing a path of experience. They're not philosophers, because philosophers are just thinking, imagining. People can write an essay about enlightenment. They can start doing a thesis on the jhana meditations. What a waste of time that is. You can't know those things through words. In fact, they're beyond imagining. That's why they're powerful and they're deep and they're sublime. You only know those things by stopping all that stupidity and letting go. Once you start doing that, you start to understand what life is all about. What is the meaning of life? It's not accumulating. Life is about letting go. Unfortunately, in our world, in our culture, what we do most of the time, we accumulate things. Is it easy to accumulate things? How much does your house cost? How much suffering does that cost to get a house? Getting up in the morning, Monday, and going to work. I didn't go to work for 6 months. Didn't come to the Buddhist Society. Didn't teach the monks. Didn't do anything for 6 months. I didn't do anything to earn my happiness. That's why happiness came. It's going in the opposite direction. That takes courage to do that, or just understanding the path, understanding the way, for all the training and the great teachers I've had in my life. Once you start to do that, you start to re-experience what you read about in the books. You start to understand what religion is all about. Sometimes you look at newspapers and this scandal about religion and that scandal about religion. No one believes in religion and people argue about religion and people have wars about religion. That's not religion. Religion is what happens in your heart when you let go. That's when you start to understand what life is all about. All those secrets of life are not in any book. They're in you when you stop, when you go inside, when you let go. What you're letting go of is all those coverings of truth, layer upon layer of wrapping. Our world is a world of marketing. We have our clothes because they're marketed. We go to Bali because of marketing. We do our hair because of marketing. We get married because of marketing. We get rich because of marketing. That's what we're supposed to do. I always wanted to challenge things. I was always a radical when I was a young man. I've told you before about my green velvet trousers, hippie beads, and Jimi Hendrix haircut. I have to try and find a photograph somewhere to let you know. I used to carry those photographs around when I was a monk in Thailand, and whenever any monk got depressed, I would take them out and they would laugh, and that was the end of their depression. Going in the opposite direction to that, just giving up things. The more you give up, the more you have. The more happiness, the more bliss. So what we're teaching here, in this Buddhist center here, is just maybe you're not ready yet to give up completely, but once you start this is where it's going to lead. If not this lifetime, the next lifetime, you're going to start giving up more and more and more, getting more and more happiness, more and more bliss. And people are going to get surprised at you. Why are you so happy when you're so sick? Why are you so blissed out when you've got cancer and you're about to die? You just lost your husband. You just run away with your best friend. And you're just so happy that now your husband is even more happy with someone else. That's compassion. Don't you want your husband to be happy? He's more happy with your best friend, so you should be even happier. It's logical, isn't it? Same with your wife or your girlfriend. If they find someone better than you, then if you really love her, you really want her to be happy, oh, you should find someone better. Oh, I'm so happy, even happier with my best friend than with me. So you can see the difference between attachments and letting go. All the time you attach to something, it's like a person having a rucksack, a backpack on the back. Every time you attach to something, it's one more thing, one more rock in your backpack. Your partner in life, rock. You have kids, 3 or 4 rocks. You get a house, the whole house gets in your back. Have a body, that gets in there as well. That's why life is heavy. Because of all the things you carry around. You do carry it around with you. You worry about your house. You come here, you worry, did I lock the door? Did I close the windows? Is there any burglars going to come? About your partner, doesn't matter how much you trust them, there's always a little bit. Perhaps they've been to the Buddhist society and they've heard Ajahn Brahmavamso speak, and now I'm going to go out with my best friend. There's always that little bit of doubt there, isn't there? With the best relationships in partners, you carry them around. Your kids, how much do you worry about your children? What's in your backpack? Your finances, your health, your mind. Do you worry about your mind? Are you worried about Alzheimer's disease? Can you remember where you put your shoes when you came in here? It's happening. I know some people, some of my relations, my mother especially, she's just so worried about getting old and getting Alzheimer's disease. When I was having Alzheimer's, you've got nothing to worry about. You forget everything. Other people worry about it. You don't worry about anything. Why do people worry about that? It's because they're worried about losing what they're attached to, their intelligence. Are you worried when you're proven wrong? You don't want to admit it, you've made a mistake? Why is pride such a cause of suffering in the world? Why can't we just admit we're wrong, we made a mistake? Because we're attached to our illusion of ourselves, another rock inside. When you can let all of that go, you know no one in the world, you're not trying to prove anything, live up to anything, you don't mind being stupid, you don't mind making mistakes, you don't mind getting sick, you don't mind dying, you don't mind being bankrupt, left alone. You don't mind anything, you've let go, you've emptied all the rocks out of your backpack. And you can dance through life. No burdens. 6 months, my backpack was empty. Just the backpack got thrown away. Not carrying anything through life. Of course, that's bliss. Try it and see. Once you start trying, you say, why haven't I done this before? Stupid the way I've lived my life, just collecting more rocks from my backpack. So when one starts to practice the way of letting go, the way of meditation, the Eightfold Path, renunciation, not worshipping something or a god or trying to think you're going to get to heaven in some future life, doing it now, where you've got a chance to see if it's true or not true. Little by little you find more and more peace, more and more happiness. And that gets more and more blissful, more and more powerful, more and more close to going out completely. I've given a simile to the monks some time ago. I remembered it when I was walking meditation one night, and there was a beautiful meteor fell. I saw it from my meditation path. This glorious light in the sky, which wobbled backwards and forwards for quite a few seconds before it disappeared. It's lighting up the sky. That's like a person who lets go more and more and more, gets more and more enlightened, and then completely disappears out of samsara, out of the world, out of rebirth. going out in the beautiful light of bliss, of happiness, sharing that with the whole world. As I teach here in Serpentine and Nolamara, I notice many monks, many lay people just flowering. And whenever a flower opens, whenever enlightenment happens, first of all, the flower is extremely beautiful. The joy of these experiences is something to behold, like a beautiful flower, but also the fragrance is felt as power throughout the whole area. Not only the power, but once the flower opens up, the seeds, the pollen, starts to waft in the area to make more flowers. It's a simile of how enlightenment serves other people. The flower doesn't need to move to help the other flowers in the garden. What it needs to do is to reach its destiny, to bloom in the beauty of the blissful states, to create the seeds from its own enlightenment, to spread to all others. One flower has many minute, or you can hardly see them, bits of pollen. I know that because I suffer from hay fever. My nose knows that. But also you can see it happening in nature. So just one enlightened person just sends their seeds, their pollen all over the place to create other enlightened people. So by doing solitude, by letting go, you're doing the greatest of services for other people. You're opening up like a flower, blooming, blossoming, joyful, fragrant, and your pollen is going all over the place to help all other beings. What you're giving them, how you're serving them, is not trying to help them sort of overcome this particular sickness, because many doctors do that. They work so hard to heal someone, and then that person goes and gets sick again. How ungrateful. Because that's what happens with sickness. You can help them a little bit, but then they get better. They get sick again. Or you try and help a person sort of financially, but then they sort of end up losing it again, or it's never enough. If you help a person through the mind, through their heart, if you help a person to know how to let go, then you've helped them properly, fully. You've helped them on the path to full liberation. And your bliss eventually becomes their bliss. One of the things which I recognized on my retreat is just, it doesn't concern a person. This is like just a process. Our monastery at Serpentine is a factory. It takes in the raw material of Anagarikas, and it turns out enlightened monks. And those enlightened monks draw more raw material in as the process continues. And one of the things which a few people have told me when I ask them how's everything going, is seeing all the senior monks who are coming behind me just grow as their flowers start to sort of grow up from the ground and start to bud, start to flower. You can see this happening in all the lay community who have been here. This Buddhist society has been, here I think almost 20 years. 30 years I think the Buddhist society almost. Next year will be the 30th anniversary of the Buddhist Society of West Australia. The monks have been here for about 20 years. And in that time you've seen not just growth in numbers, that's not important. Not just growth of facilities like big monasteries or big temples in Nolamara, that's not important. But the quality of the monks and the people who come and sit here on a Friday evening or go to the meditation retreat, that's what's important. That's what impresses me. Not the sort of temple outside, but the temple inside, which is growing and growing and growing. You're seeing that where Buddhism is not in the temples, not in the priests, not in the the numbers. The census results were out recently. I was just trying to find out exactly what the results were, but it doesn't really matter about the numbers. It's a quality. And many of you have been coming here long enough to see it in your own hearts, in your own practice, what this has done for you. That's why you keep coming back year after year. It's that quality which is really impressive. So I've done a 6-month retreat, not just for myself, to try and open the way for the next month to do a long retreat in solitude. For you, listening to me now, one day, to go into a hut, 6 months, speaking to no one, just having your food brought to you, letting go of the whole world, experience the same bliss which I felt. That's my wish for you. And that's what's going to happen one day. And then you'll know what the meaning of life is. And that meaning of life is pretty special. And one of the nicest things about it, it's not just an intellectual idea which you share with your friends. It's a bliss which you share with your friends. A power which you can spread out to other people. That's what you can share. Spoken many words tonight. But those words are just the packaging of what is underneath those words. What I've been trying to spread while I've been giving this talk this evening. For 6 months I haven't talked at all. I gave a talk on Wednesday night to the monks at my monastery. Now, Friday night to you. It's only 4 days I've been speaking. So I have to apologize if what I've said is not articulate. My poor old brain is working as hard as it can to reconnect all those connections which have gone extremely rusty. But I don't care, because it's not the words. It's hopefully what I've conveyed this evening is where it's coming from. And may that be an inspiration to you. May it sort of uplift you. May it show you, not through convoluted words, but through the feelings, the power, the energy, where this Buddhism leads to. The happiness experience of your life, 1,000 times, mega times, more than you can ever imagine. May that be your happiness. May that be your freedom. Freedom not to follow desires, but freedom from all desires. Having no desire at all in your mind. Nothing pushing you away. Not wanting even the slightest thing. Not moving. Stillness in stillness in stillness. As being still, the whole world starts to disappear. Layer upon layer. All your past just vanishing. Future vanishing, going into timeless. I was having great confusion the last couple of days, finding out what day it was after 6 months, just knowing not where I was. And I found out that I had a calendar next to my seat. Someone had turned it on to July rather than June. I was confused enough as it was without having the wrong calendar sheet in front of me. Just letting go of all time, seeing all that vanish into timelessness, into ownerlessness. I had nothing in the whole world. I had no friends, no family, no other monks. One of the monks I saw put food in my bowl. He was actually, I told him, it was Venerable Abhaya. He's a Sri Lankan monk. I couldn't really see the features of any monk, so I was too far away, but being a Sri Lankan monk, he was dark-skinned. So that's a dark-skinned monk. So I know him. I couldn't think of his name. I was very proud of that. I'd let go so much I couldn't. I told him that, and he sort of scowled at me. I apologised afterwards, and he laughed because he realised what I was doing. All those perceptions go. He's a great friend. I ordained him as a monk only a few years ago, and forget everything. Oh, you let go of all these past perceptions and all these memories. You have so much freedom. You let go of your body. I was saying I had very good health, but I did have some back pain towards the end of my retreat, simply because I was sitting for so many long periods. It's interesting, somebody asked me just afterwards in Serpentine, said, did the days drag by? Just were you bored? So, absolutely not. The time went so fast. You got up in the morning, you only slept a couple of hours, a few hours, and because you had so much energy. But probably much less than you sleep. But all that time, with nothing to do, it just flew past. It's interesting, I realised why. When somebody asked me, it's because I was sitting for long periods, a couple of hours or more, and then you sort of get up and change and walk for a long time. So I actually didn't do many things each day. Sort of 7 or 8 things. If you actually listed what I did, sit meditation, then get up to walk, then sit, have my meal. That's already the morning gone. In the afternoon, sit, meditation. So there's only about 6 or 7 things I did all day. That's why it flew past. It's not so much, it's like how many things you do, the changes. If you change a lot, do many things, always moving, a number of movements in a day, make it a long day. If you don't move very much in a day, you sit for long periods of times, absolutely motionless, then just get up and change and just walk for a long period. You don't do many things. Time goes quickly. Time is change. The more there's changing, the faster you go, so the slower, the longer the day is, the longer your life is. Not long, lovely, but long, unpleasant. This is an interesting sort of perception which came up. That's why the days, as soon as you got up, then you were going to bed again. 6 months just went by so quickly. So this is actually part of the perception of time. And very beautiful, very happy. So it's difficult for me to string the talk together this evening. But I try my very best. Hopefully you've got some of the bliss which I've experienced in the last 6 months. And again, my gratitude to you all for all the support, especially the support of just leaving me alone. That's the most wonderful thing that you've done for me in the last 6 months. Thank you very much. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask or any comments? Yeah, thank you. He'll come back. It's true, because again, before I've been doing so much talking, so much activity as well, helping out the Buddhist Society and going off to Singapore. I was like pushing myself. Now, some of the things I've done have been absolutely ridiculous. They would have stressed anybody out. It's quite a few times. I remember last time I went off to Singapore. Gave the Friday night talk here, talked to people afterwards, then to the airport, the overnight plane to Singapore, and then full day of giving talks. There's a conference, it was at some ceremony in the hotel, talking to people until late at night, and then following morning up 7 o'clock when people come to bring you some breakfast and ask you Dharma questions. So you're working from 7 o'clock till about 10 or 11 o'clock, giving a big talk to a couple of thousand people. And afterwards, after the talk was finished, then it was on the overnight flight to London, and then to a meeting there for the monks in London. And that's actually how I was living for about 2 weeks. But you have energy, you can do that, there's no problem at all. But I do get coughs, quite likely. But the power of meditation is tremendous. It increases your energies, your immune system. The reason is because it creates so much joy, so much powerful happiness. Energy is happiness. So, those of you who feel dull, especially when you wake up in the morning, before you had your cup of coffee or tea, you know the first thing you should do in the morning, I've taught this before, go in the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror, and smile. And if you can't smile because of what you've been doing the night before, if you can't smile, 2 fingers. This is the 2-finger trick. Side of the mouth, push up. Now, it's so easy to do. Absolutely simple. That was the first meditation teaching I got from this fellow he used to come up to Cambridge to teach. Absolutely simple, but so powerful. How to create energy in the beginning of the day. I did that for 2 years as a student. You know, again, I've told you something of my life before. I was a good student, but like any student, you're enjoying yourself, staying up late at night. Sometimes you stay up all night doing stupid things. But every morning I would go into that bathroom and I'd look at myself for 2 years and smile at myself. And some days, absolutely impossible. You know how you felt sort of, I used to drink for the first year there, feel really awful. 2 fingers up. I see this stupid young student in front of the mirror. And I laughed every morning at myself. What a marvellous way to start a day. It gives you energy. And I didn't do this, I only did it in the morning, but I now tell people, if any time during the day you get upset, you feel sickly, you feel tired, or whatever else it is, just go in the bathroom, get your 2 fingers out and push up. Try it. I mean, it works. And it's much less expensive than going to see a therapist. It's much better going taking chemicals. And you see this stupid person, you're laughing at yourself, you're getting at ease with yourself, you're at peace. So it's happiness, it's energy. If you can do it, you can't do it through your meditation, do it with your 2 fingers. That's what these 2 fingers were there for, Not to point at people, but to smile at yourself. Thank you for the question. Did I answer it? Okay, thank you. Is there any other question anyone would like to ask? I heard that the last week they went on for 2 hours talking about ghosts. So I thought I'd better sort of keep it and I heard that most people actually stay to listen, which was impressive until I found out because they were too scared to go outside in case it was dark outside. If ever I give a talk on ghosts, I'm going to tell the person with the lights to start turning the lights down. So there's a question over here, was there? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. It's an interesting question because this is my area. That's where I grew up as a monk. I know those monks very well. And that biography, it's Ajahn Mun's biography. He was a great monk. Number one, the translation which you see here was not a good translation. Just after it was done into English, I visited Ajahn Mahabua, and one of the first things I was told is that translation, that tell people that so much has been added there. It's not actually what even Ajahn Mahabua said. So that's number one. And two, I went to many other teachers, great monks, who were also disciples of that monk. They said that was actually Ajahn Mahabua's perception of it. That was his slant on it. But the other one said Ajahn Mahabua was the most happiest, the most kind and compassionate person you could ever meet. He was like a mother to every monk. And he was so soft and gentle. If you made a mistake, you get out of the monastery. But if you were practicing properly, he'd just bend over backwards to help you. All the great monks which I've known, They'll be fierce, like tigers if you make a mistake. But if you're actually serious about what you're doing, they will just do anything for you. And their compassion is just amazing. One of the monks who came here, he told me once, said, if ever you have any question about meditation, doesn't matter what time of the night, if I'm sleeping 1 o'clock in the morning, please knock on my door and ask me. I don't mind being woken up if it's about a question of meditation. And that's anything they would do for you. And that was Ajahn Mun as well. Sometimes when you get one perspective about a teacher, then you don't get the full picture. It's Ajahn Mun through the eyes of Ajahn Mahabua. He was a boxer when he was before he became a monk. That's his character, full on, and he can be very fierce. But I must say, in my experiences of staying with him for a short time once, I was sweeping in his monastery. I'd only just arrived there, and I'd got the time wrong. I was sweeping earlier, and as I was sweeping alone on the path of his forest monastery, he came round a corner, just in front of me, and he gave me such a blast of loving kindness. I've never got that even from Ajahn Chah. He said in the most kindest of words, I was sweeping wrong. I was sweeping the leaves to the side of the path, which was creating ruts in the sandy store. He said it with such amazing kindness. He said, don't sweep to the edge. Sweep to the centre, because then it won't make a rut. I can't sort of get up to his standard. But he said it in such a wonderful way. I just melted. And that was the fiercest meditation teacher in the whole of Thailand did that to me. So, I've seen both sides of those teachers. And to see that they had a very happy time. Ajahn Chah was always laughing. That's why people used to like to be around him. He would tell jokes. He had all the Thai young men had to become monks for a certain time. And so one of his supporters was a general from Bangkok. So they sent his son just to be a novice with Ajahn Chah for the Rains retreat. And being the son of a general in Thailand, generals in that time, the military regime, that was about as high as you can get in society. So they were very rich. So this guy was so fat. I mean, he's only sort of in his early 20s. He's really overweight. So I remember being in Ajahn Chah's hut once, and Ajahn Chah was making the monks just fall over laughing and say, be careful of the trees when you walk through the forest. I don't want you to push any over. And things like that. And many of you may remember one of the monks who's come here, Ajahn Liam. A couple of years ago he came here. He's now the abbot of Wat Pah Bong. He took over from Ajahn Chah. He's a tough monk. He's really tough. One of the other monks who came here, Ajahn Naik, sort of Ajahn Chah had to tell people to watch after him. Whenever he got sick, he'd just give himself intravenous. No sort of anaesthetic, just bung it up in his arm, find a vein, and put it in there. These are some tough monks. I've seen Ajahn Liam just rolling on the floor, sort of completely losing all mindfulness because of Ajahn Chah's jokes. It's amazing to have those experiences. That's what I got. The great monks were the happy ones. And that's what you see in the Buddhist teachings. If you want to check that out, look in the Dhammacettiya Sutta. It's in the Majjhima Nikaya. The great king, King Prasenadi, just before he died, he went to see the Buddha, and it was the last time he saw the Buddha. And he said that one of the reasons he loves coming to the monastery is because he saw so many smiling and happy monks. He said that must be a sign that they're understanding something. So the path of pain just leads to frustration. Try it if you want. The Buddha did it for 6 years. You know the story of the Buddha. You try the path of happiness and the bliss. But also it's the best marketing tool of meditation and Buddhism. You start to talk about this is the reason why I deliberately sort of try and mention just how much bliss you get out of this. Just to inspire and to encourage. When you want to be compassionate, you want to give somebody something. That's what I want to give you. It's even a fraction of the bliss which I've been having in the last 6 months. Okay, I think that's probably enough for now. Oh, Eddie. Yeah, come on, good old Eddie. Yeah. I've been working very hard. So I'm glad some of it's getting through. That's why I was last being around great teachers like Ajahn Chah. I didn't mind what he was saying. Just actually being there, just to suck in some of the energy. One of the monks in my monastery is now on their own 2-week retreat. They've got into the hut I was in. They couldn't wait to get in there, to suck up the energy. I'm sure they're having a marvelous time. It's not Ajahn Brahm. It's Dharma. It's not Ajahn Brahm doing this. Dhamma. There's no one in here. Okay, I think that's probably enough for this evening.